Hey, and we're back. Happy Monday. I'm Alec Dinkoff, voiceover talent, here with Steve Todd, creator, founder of Open Source Workplace. How you doing today, Steve?
Doing well, Alec. How are you doing?
It's hot. It's hot here
It's
in the
hot.
Midwest. We're
It's
hitting,
hot in New York too, yeah.
oh, I know, it's hot all over the place. Even I think the UK is having a heat wave. Everybody's hot in the Northern Hemisphere. What is
I
going
don't,
on?
I don't believe I don't believe the UK is having a heat wave. They're probably just
No?
getting thunderstorms. I'm playing with you. Just
Oh,
having grown up there, I just know how dark and miserable it usually is.
I heard something was going on over there, but maybe I'm misinformed.
No, I think you're right. I'm just playing.
Wacky weather. It's expected. It's been cooler than normal here, but we're getting into it. Speaking of other things we're getting into, just read an article, What Roles Need Office Space, excuse me, and it's out on Open Source Workplace, also in podcast form there, link in the description. It talks about specific roles needing office space. It mentions office administrative assistant, receptionist, human resources manager, chief executive officer, the CEO, right? Lawyers, customer service representatives, and auditing, people who do auditing. Do you agree with this list? And if you do or if you don't, which one of these would you probably say is the most important for office space?
Yeah, so I mean, the article's it's a great article. It is, and I sort of want to take a step back from when it says what roles need office, and what we're talking about is actually physical office. This isn't a enclosed office within a corporate office. This is actually office space. Just to clarify that one little thing, and as I sort of think about who actually needs office and who actually needs office space, I often go back to the task and what the role is, right? And if you sort of think about whenever you're starting and you're sort of running an organization or starting a business, you can pretty much do it wherever you want. Your whole purpose is to create a service, create a product, and you have to identify where is the best place, the most productive place for me to do that. So we start from there, and as you go and you add people to that, what is actually then, what are the roles, and how are you going to make that team more productive? And then from there, I think that's where you make the decision on who actually needs to be in an office. There are a lot of organizations out there that run completely remote. GitHub's one that springs to mind. They're the organization, they were bought by Microsoft. But actually, they actually did fully remote, and they don't need any offices. There are other organizations, because of the culture, because of the interactions and the benefits that their management team and owner structure thought office space was important. They're the ones that actually decided, okay, that's what we need office. So I think as people think about office space, they have to have a look, okay, what are we trying to do? The purpose of an office is to be productive and bring people together, to be collaborative, again, to provide that service or product to their customer base. So that's where you have to start. Now, is there any specific ones that are identified there that I think need an office? I could argue both ways for each specific role. There are probably more that benefit more from actually being in the office. I'm thinking if you're a CEO and you're actually running a team, having an interaction, to be able to understand quickly those little ad hoc conversations that can sort of drive direction for the organization. But again, I don't think there's any of those roles you could specifically say, or I would specifically say, need to be in an office or don't need to be in an office. It all comes down to how the organization is functioning, and actually being collectively together. Is the team better or worse off by being together or not being together? And that's how I would look at it and approach it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment there. I know I've been doing a slight podcast, not just with you, but on the side here, and they talk about customer service representatives being a big key player in the working from home, working remote realm. I've seen other things such as human resources also. Now, human resources brings up my mind. They've got specific documents, right, that are confidential. But I've looked at other companies that are saying they're hiring remote human resource representatives. So for me, I wonder how they're pulling that off. They either have data being transferred and keeping it very, secure, or that human resource representative, any physical copies, right? They have it in a very secure location, even if it's offsite. It's something to keep in mind if you do have somebody offsite or a lawyer as well, right? Those things play into the role in that company. But like you said, if there's a CEO or if the company culture is work in the office, he comes out or she comes out, says a quick blurb to the people, it keeps business rolling, keeps motivation up, whatever they're speaking about. But if that CEO doesn't know how to utilize technology correctly, well, that's a different conversation that somebody needs to have with the CEO, but they wouldn't be as effective doing like a Skype call or Zoom, the platform that we're using currently, right? So that could be a breakdown.
I think it all comes down to the culture, right? That the
Mm-hmm.
CEO, right, is the spearhead, the one that drives the organization, that drives the direction, drives the culture. And I think the CEO would sort of dictate how that works. And often, you know, a CEO being in the office there where the team can have this physical eyesight, just knowing that they're around actually has a real impact on the culture and actually the feeling in the office. I know when I'm in the office and the CEO's in that office, you feel a difference. You do. Whenever you see the CEO or you see a senior executive, you feel the difference and the atmosphere changes. And again, that's not whether that's intentional or unintentional. It's just a fact. That's just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, organizations that are structured where they don't have offices, their CEOs, their leadership teams find other ways to actually create that connection, right? And we've talked about before at length how, you know, those organizations that are structured that way, they have to be a lot more thoughtful and planned on how they do have those interactions, and they have obviously ways in which they can do that too.
Exactly. So jumping to the side here, the article also mentions there's certain criteria, though, that determine office space. So you've mentioned company culture, and we've really hit that home. But they also talk about having office space helps attract new talent, right? Because offices can be pretty cool. Social life, company culture, that ties right in. But they also mentioned punctuality and accountability. How do you those on the list kind of stood out to me? How do you feel about those? Because obviously with time clock in, clock out softwares, that can almost be mitigated. But I know that there is a social dynamic to coming into the office, getting your morning cup of joe, and sitting down at your workstations, you know, doing your morning routine. Hi, how's the kid? I just want to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, and it's really important, right? So you go through the social cohesion, right? It's a huge thing. But you know, going back to your first thing, so attracting and retaining talent, right? Office space today is used as a major thing to actually recruit talent. Benefits are used as a huge pulling tool to actually attract and retain talent, and those things are paramount. Now, if you have a physical space, you can invite people in. They can look, they can see, they can feel, they can touch. When you don't have a physical office space, those are things that you just have to speak, you know, and from the candidate, it's a very hypothetical type of conversation because there's nothing tangible there. Now, there's also other folks that you may be recruiting who actually that's what they want. They want to have that work from home life. They want to be able to remote from the team, and that may be really, you know, attractive to them. But I think those people that actually want the physical space, I think there's a huge benefit to that. I also think the younger generation, millennials, we spoke about before as well. I think they like having a place to go to because, you know, I mean, I recall in all of the research and what my experience is, you know, what the millennials really want is they want to sit close to the leadership. They want to see, learn, and be educated. They also want to have a feeling of contribution. And whenever you're sitting close to your team and colleagues, it's a lot easier to feel that. It's a lot easier to be a part of that and experience that. So I think that a lot of that comes into the feeling of office space as well.
Fair enough. I almost would agree that people in older generations as well, and this may change as time goes on, right? Because who knows what's going to happen. It'll be exciting to see if the millennials that like the working at home environment or working remote environment, if that's going to change as they get older, get more stable, wives, husbands, kids, right? There was always like comedians would joke about, let me go to work so I can get out of the house, right? I don't want to be home with the missus all day. So I don't know if that kind of plays into it as well, but it'll be interesting to see if that dynamic no longer is even talked about when millennials hit certain ages going forward.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in the work environment today, where you probably have 5 generations working together, you know, I think those the later generations that probably have their practices that they've been doing for many, many years, like you said, you know, and they've been used to getting on the train with their newspaper, reading the newspaper. They've been doing it for years, and they actually probably enjoy that experience. And I think it'd be interesting to see how they shift with that culture. But it's a very interesting concept.
Exactly. You said doing it for years. Human beings, they're creatures of habit. Speaking of habits, you should make it a habit to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're here every week. Thanks for joining us. Share this on your social media platforms. We'd love to make new friends, bring them into the realm of open source workplace. Other than that, we'll see you next week, and thanks for joining us. Bye now.